Hello, all. Welcome back to Office Hours with the Professor, the show where I say things. Today, I didn't choose the Siberian hunter gatherer life. The Siberian hunter gatherer life chose me. So, today we're going to be talking about the traditional lifestyle and culture of the Ket people, both past and present. Okay? So, Ket life. That's what we're having our topic for today. Okay? And we've already talked about the very basics of the Ket. Remember, they're a Paleo-Siberian hunter-gatherer people. Okay, but today we're going to go into more detail. What was important in the Ket world? What did traditional Ket people do every day? Let's take a journey through space and time and take a look at the Ket way of life, the last remnants of an age-old tradition that once held sway across Inner Eurasia. Now, when we examine the Ket forest hunter-gatherer lifestyle, we are seeing in modern times a cultural succession with roots that go all the way back far beyond recorded history, okay? Now, this is really cool stuff, so let's get started. We'll be dividing our discussion today into 6 parts, okay? The first part is worldview. Second, nomadizing. Third, other people. Fourth, animals. Fifth, food. And sixth, the present situation of the Ket. So, let's get started. Part 1, worldview. Okay, so the Ket worldview and concept of space was influenced by 2 major features, okay? The river and the forest. And the river was this place of kind of plenty and ease where life is good, and the forest was a little harsher and more austere, okay? And geographically, austere, whatever. Geographically, the Ket positioned themselves in relation to the river, okay? And upriver, up the Yenisei River is kind of to the south, right? So it's seen as this kind of positive, warm place, this idyllic land of plenty where there was this good goddess or good witch, and her name was Tomam, okay? And Tomam's good. She's the one who saves the Ket from starvation every spring by sending the birds on their migration north. And supposedly she lives in this land of mountains where the Yenisei has its source to the south. And I've actually been there. I've stood on the very banks of the Yenisei at its source in northern Mongolia, but I didn't see Tomam. Maybe next time. At any rate, I could, however, feel the spirit of Tomam as I stood on top of the cliffs, looking over the very upper Yenisei. And on those cliffs, every year, Tomam comes wearing this cape, beautiful cape made out of feathers, and she shakes the cape out, and the down falls off, and it's carried away by the wind. Become the birds so necessary to Ket life, the migratory birds that you can hunt. Now, meanwhile, the north, down the Yenisei River, is this land of evil, of cold and misfortune. And if we travel far enough down north, down the Yenisei River, we would run into this very mean lady named Hosedam, or Hosedam, and she's the wicked witch of the north. Kind of like this, but colder and no monkeys. Anyway, Hosedam's favorite food is human souls. So if we ran into her, we'd be done for, unless Alba, the great hero of Ket myth, came along and made her vomit the souls back up. Pretty cool. So anyway, this is the Ket River, which was very central to their life. On the other hand, we have the forest. Once again, it's austere, it's cold, it's where you go hunting in the winter, and it's this kind of mysterious place where weird things happen. So So a major part of Ket life was moving to new encampments every season, okay? And a lot of people have kind of this wrong idea that all nomadic people just kind of wander around aimlessly. That's not entirely true. Some people in some parts of the world do kind of just wander, but for the Ket at least, nomadic migration patterns are very precisely calculated to things like weather and food availability, and they're consistent. For instance, Ket families tended to use their own winter hunting trails that were remembered without the use of markers or signposts or anything like that. And Ket family groups, they would hold a migration for each season, okay? So from in the spring, they would emerge from the forest to camp at the riverside. Here's our river in these birch bark teepees, okay? And when the summer came, the mosquitoes would become so thick and so unpleasant that people would have to hang out in the houseboats on the river where the mosquitoes couldn't reach. And so this is what you would do for a few weeks every summer, and then the mosquitoes die, you return to shore back to your birch bark teepee, okay? And when winter came, they would go away into the forest. And for a brief period, well, for a period of several weeks during the coldest part of the winter, mom and the kids would hole themselves up in an earthen shelter. This is my attempt at an earthen shelter covered by snow. And meanwhile, dad and the older sons are off enjoying themselves hunting. Now, such were the patterns of the Ket year, and so did they cope and even thrive in the harsh environment of central Siberia. In terms of interactions with other Siberian peoples, the Ket most frequently ran into two groups, okay? The Selkup and the Evenki. And the first group, the Selkup, they lived in the swampy lowlands to the west, and they were speakers of a language distantly related to Finnish and Hungarian. And they were known to the Ket by the Selkup word for friend. So kind of like if instead of saying someone was from Mexico or Cuba or Spain, we just said, oh, he's an amigo, right? So the Selkup were, and to this day are, reindeer herders, which is fundamentally different from the hunter-gatherer lifestyle of the Ket. This difference, however, seems not to have impeded the bro-tier relationship, maybe the relationship between the two peoples. Now, the Evenki, on the other hand, were on not so good terms with the Ket. The Evenki lived in the hilly east, and their ancestors' expansion forced the Ket downriver from their ancient homeland to the south. Remember this idyllic land of warmth and plenty. In a reference to the more mountainous territory of the Evenki, they were known to the Ket by the less than flattering name of stone spirits. Okay, so Tungus or something like this in the Ket language, and this is a reference to the rugged topography of their home. A third group with whom the Ket frequently interacted, at least in modern times, were the Russians. Before I go on, I also want to mention the Anyets people, who are also they speak a language related to Selkup, but they were also guys who the Ket ran up against and fought. So anyway, the Russians but interactions with the Anyets were maybe not so much. So anyway, the Russians, every year they showed up and came to trade and to shake the Ket down for tax. And unfortunately, this led to a lot of nasty stuff like economic exploitation. But anyway, so that's how the Ket related to their neighbors, the other Siberian peoples. And now we're going to talk about animals. Now, of course, the traditional Ket world was shared with a number of animals, the most important being the dog. Now, the dogs were the only domesticate of the Ket. According to legend, the first dog was the son of the sky god named Is. Okay, the sky god Is, the son of Is, was sent to teach the people how to revive their dead. But he made a mistake. Instead the son told everyone to put the dead into the ground, thereby condemning humanity to mortality. So for his forgetfulness, he was cursed to serve humans for all eternity, sniffing and digging around in the ground. Now, the singularity of the dog as the Ket's sole domesticant sets them apart from their reindeer herding neighbors. And there's a reason that they survived while other forest hunter-gatherers didn't make it. The Ket had a secret ally, the mosquitoes. Every summer, the mosquitoes, and they're the reason that they survived, the mosquitoes would be so thick on the land that reindeer would literally suffocate on the insects that they'd inhaled. So mosquitoes are very important, if annoying. Okay, and the Ket, meanwhile, would be sitting out in the river in their boats comfortably and enjoying the excellent fishing. So, the reindeer was never really as central to Ket life as it was for others. Interestingly, however, in the 1930s, the Soviets tried to force the Ket into reindeer breeding, but it never really worked because the first of all, the climate wasn't right and they just ate the reindeer anyway. Okay, so the other main animal in Ket life was the bear. Okay, the bear, and believed to be inhabited. The bear was believed, like many other circumpolar peoples, to be inhabited by human spirits, and the Ket treated bears with a reverence bordering on worship. Whenever a bear was brought down in a hunt, the dead animal was considered this special guest among the people, and they ate the bear at a feast in its own honor. Now, this tradition of bear festivals, let's write that down, bear festivals. Bearfest. Bear festivals is having extremely ancient roots, as we can observe ceremonies like it across boreal Eurasia, northern Eurasia, from Finland. It's even talked about in the epic poem, the Kalevala, from Finland to Japan, where it was practiced among the Ainu people of Hokkaido. So, present situation. Let's talk about the current situation of the Ket people. So, the current state of the Ket people is a tragic one. Having been subjected to this forced assimilation under the Soviets through the 20th century, little remains of traditional Ket way of life that is being actively maintained and passed to the next generation. Okay, there are no native speakers of Ket, fluent native speakers who are younger than 50. Okay, and even though kids in school, they get an hour a week of Ket class, but that's really just not enough to make a difference in the survival of the language. The days of birch bark teepees and bear festivals appear to be gone forever. Now, the Ket have been entirely sedentarized, and forced into this world drastically alien to that of their ancestors, okay? And the modern situation, therefore, is tragically one of people forced in between worlds with a decimated culture and lots of isolation. They have few employable skills, and unfortunately, there are a lot of social issues, okay? And the results are predictable. There's a lot of violence, a lot of crime, and alcoholism is also quite severe among the Ket. Okay, there's some domestic violence, a lot of illness, and there's tremendous human suffering going on right now in Ket communities. And this vicious cycle can only, I mean, in my opinion, at least, be ended by the Ket themselves, which they must be empowered to do. And I think one step towards this empowerment is preservation and promotion of Ket language and traditional culture. You know, before one rises up, one must have ground to stand on, right? And hopefully, by sharing with everyone that I can the awesomeness of Ket language and culture, I can help work toward this empowerment and do my part as an ally of the Ket people. Of course, you know, I was talking to my professor, and we were talking about how in Russia, in modern Russia, that's really difficult. But what we can do is preserve the language, and we can preserve elements of the culture, hopefully for the next generation. And that's what we're trying to do here. So everybody, that is my video on Ket life, and I will have a video for you next about Ket shamanic practices, okay? So I will see you then.